All right, now to help you better see this idea of a function, we're going to show this data as something a little bit different from a table or a graph like we're used to. This is called a mapping diagram. So what I've got here is my data, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 9 and 5. That's my relationship. Here's how you make a mapping diagram. What you do is you just create two ovals. Typically they use ovals. And one of these will be for the input, and one of these will be for the output. Okay, where the input is specifically the values for x, and output is y. All right, so what you do is you group the x values in order in our input oval. So 3, 4, and 9. And as you list them, any duplicate values, you ignore them. Now, we didn't have any duplicates here, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, and also what it doesn't show here is that you usually want to go in numerical order. Okay, 3, then 4, then 9. All right, then we're going to do the same thing with the output values. We're going to group the y values in order. So here I've got 4, 5, and 5. But when I write it, I'm just going to write 4 and 5 once, because again, I'm ignoring the duplicate values. Now, they call it a mapping diagram because we're trying to make connections and draw arrows like you would on a map. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect those same paired coordinates with arrows. So for this first pair, 3, 4, I would draw an arrow from 3 to 4 to show that 4 is the output for this input value of 3. I am then going to do 4, 5. So from 4 to 5, input-output values. And then from 9 to 5. Okay, and so this is what our mapping diagram should look like. And it's much more clear because what I should see here, that if this is a function, since every input value should be paired with only one output value, I should only see one arrow coming out of each input value. So 3 only has one arrow coming out of it, which is 4. 4 only has one arrow coming out of it, which is to the 5. And 9 only has one arrow coming out of it to the same 5. Okay, now this is okay. This is still a function even though they both use the 5, because what we care about is each input value should be paired with only one output value, not the other way around. It's okay if one output value is paired with two input values. Okay, so the thing you want to see here is for every input, there should be one arrow coming out of it for it to be considered a function. Okay, so that's why we learn about mapping diagrams in this lesson, is because by making them into mapping diagrams, it's a lot more visually easy to see that if something's a function or not a function. All right, so let's try another mapping diagram. Let's change this one. And here, you might want to try this out on your own. Pause the video, make your mapping diagram, and then restart and see if you came up with the same thing. All right, so here's what it should look like. Here I've got my input values, which are all my x values, which would be 10, 8, 3, and 10. So I list them in numerical order, 3, 8, and 10, and I ignore the duplicates. I go to my other oval, and I find my output values for y. -4, 7, 4, -1. And again, going in numerical order, that'd be -4, -1, 4, and 7. And then finally, I draw in my arrows to show the input-output relationships. So 10 to -4. Oops, wrong tool. There we go. 10 to -4. 8 to 7. 3 to 4. And 10 to -1. All right, so there's our mapping diagram. Okay, now we ask ourselves, is it a function or not? In this case, not a function. Okay, and there's a place on here you can clearly see that. Okay, I'm hoping you're looking right here. This is what we were just talking about, is that the rule is every input should spit out one output. In this case, I've got the input of 10 spitting out two different outputs, and that's not something that should happen. Okay, so that is not a function. And you can clearly see it in the mapping diagram because you can see two arrows coming out of one input value. Okay. All right, let's try one last one. And again, you might want to try this on your own. So pause the video and then see what you come up with. All right, so for our inputs, we've got 5, 3, 4, and 8. So let's put those in numerical order, 3, 4, 5, 8. And for the output, I've got 7, 2, 7, and 10. So 2, 7, disregarding the duplicate, and 10. We don't bother with duplicates in a mapping diagram. All right, and now for our arrows. 5 to 7, so input of 5 spits out a 7. 3 to 2, input of 3 spits out a 2. 4 to 7, input of 4 spits out a 7. And 8 to 10, input an 8, output a 10. All right, so is it a function or not? Now, some people might say no because of this, but again, this is okay. It's okay for an output to have two inputs, just not the other way around. And once again, what I'm looking for is that every input should have one arrow coming out of it. Okay, each input has one output. Input, output, input, output, input, output. Okay, so this would be a function. Okay, every input is paired with only one output.